Question 251. Should we pay for political leaders to have access to better healthcare than the rest of us?
No.
No. Why?
Why should a political leader get better healthcare?
Because they're our leaders.
Besides, they have lots of money. They can pay for it themselves.
I think that very much depends on whether I like them or not.
So do you think Boris should have been getting the healthcare he's been getting?
He should be getting exactly what everybody else does unless he's prepared to pay extra.
Yeah, I think he should be getting exactly the same as everybody else, flat, full stop.
I thought he got the same as everybody else.
Of course he didn't.
I mean, yes, but...
Well, no, he, as far as I understand it, he was treated by the NHS, but
yes, unfortunately, there is this thing.
He was higher priority.
There is something that if you are a member of the government or a civil servant, you can sign up for an organisation called Benetton, which supplements the NHS for very little.
There's something wrong with your country when Boris Yeltsin's been treated really well and is surviving, and someone like Tim Brooke Taylor dies.
Yep.
I mean, I'd much rather still have Tim Brooke Taylor around. Thank you very much.
Yes, very much.
Back around 2006, they actually proposed a bill that would have been basically supposed to be a universal health care. And Senator Paul Wellstone put a rider on it saying that every member of Congress would be covered under the same program. It died overnight and was never heard from again.
Right there. Maya said no, never. Jeff says fuck no. Sammy says no. Tom says political leaders should have access to any health plan they can afford. If your company or your union get a good deal, that's great. So I don't ever worry that politicians can get that.
Yeah.
Doc says, I'll pay extra to give politicians better access to a pond full of snapping turtles. Sammy says, they should have to have the lowest available form of free healthcare for that particular country. Okay, yeah, I quite like that idea.
That would instantly increase the healthcare of every country if politicians had to have the lowest available free. That would instantly improve it because they would make whatever was theirs would be great, wouldn't it? So then everybody would end up on a level playing field. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I also don't think politicians should get their stupid ass pensions either. They should have to pay into pensions funds like everybody else. And if they don't do that, then they just get a normal pension.
Oh, no, I have lots of controversial opinions about what I think that politicians should and shouldn't get. We touched on it yesterday when we were talking about privacy, but I think politicians should basically lose all privacy. I think there has to be a cost to being a politician.
I agree.
I'm not entirely sure I agree with that, because...
Why? Why should we trust a random person that we can't have any real knowledge about?
Why should we trust a random person in any context?
We don't. Yeah. We're not expected to trust any other people. This is the point.
All right, if you're expecting them to give up all of their privacy, Dave, then I don't object to them getting paid stupid amounts of money for that.
This is my point. My point is they should be well paid, but we should be able... We have to put in place something where we can actually monitor that they are doing their job, and that pretty much involves getting rid of almost all privacy.
Okay. Here's the question.
I don't think they need to give up all privacy, but I think that all of their finances should be open books.
There's no point, though. Opening their finances...
should know where they're getting all their money from.
Opening their finances doesn't help... Well, it might in the States. It doesn't really help them because you can keep your finances separate. It's not a difficult task.
Do you mean, when you say give up all privacy for anything going on during the period they are in office, or for anything they've ever done ever?
Well, I would go with all while they are in office, and limited access to a lot of stuff from, say, the 5 years before.
Because I'm thinking of this from the perspective of whether anyone... Well, I'm thinking of this from the perspective of whether I would consider becoming a political candidate if this was in place. And
yes.
Donna makes a very good point, Dave.
Donna, people have to trust me as a nurse with their lives. I also want my privacy. Yep. They don't have to trust you. they have to trust the system that you will abide by.
Well, they do have to
technically
trust you
that's the
to a
same for
bit,
a
because
politician, though, isn't it?
No.
it'd be entirely possible for a nurse to just go to the pharmacy, take some drugs, and inject you with stuff that will kill you.
Yes.
You do have to have quite a strong level of trust that your nurse is not going to do that.
You're right. I don't dispute, but you are talking. What you are talking about there is an individual level of trust. You're talking about me trusting you, or me trusting a nurse on a very personal level, rather than this disconnect that you have with politicians.
About 20 years ago, I had considered running for the St. Paul City Council, just because I wanted to see what the reporters would do with the candidate who didn't try to deny anything. There are naked pictures of you or does your partner know there are naked pictures of you on the internet? I'd be like, well, who do you think took the pictures?
No, I'm going to disagree with you on that, because if I was in the public eye for something like that, my response to any question unrelated to my political campaign would be none of your business. Just
I mean, the problem is,
what did you cycle to today? None of your business. How is your significant none of your business?
I mean, I'm being slightly hyperbolic. I think politicians should have to give up privacy that is relevant, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
and that means that's not actually everything. I don't give a shit who they're sleeping with. I don't, but I do care who they are having meetings with. I do care where they are receiving their money from.
But what if they are having meetings with Russian oligarchs while also sleeping with them?
Then we need to know about it. We don't need to know. Oh, do we need to know what they're doing? I don't know. I'm unsolid. I mean, I am at the point of saying I think politicians should have a fucking camera on them all the time. I'm close to that in terms of my idea.
But I really don't want to see Boris Johnson boning.
Yes. The point is,
at least tracking chips so you can know what building they went into all the time.
I mean, like I said, I haven't thought it out to the nth degree, but I believe that you being a public servant means you serve the public. You are being paid by the public purse. I think that that you have a responsibility that I don't think most politicians live up to. And that is a complete lie. I think lots of politicians live up to it.
My only real concern is knowing where all their money is coming from. Because that's always what, sways their decisions, is who's giving them the money.
Oh, of course.
Yes. Tom, do I want the government out of your bedroom? I want the government out of all bedrooms. I want them to stop fucking preaching morals. At the end of the day, the only reason I've ever given a shit who a politician sleep with, right, is when they're standing up saying that it's wrong to fucking cheat on your wife.
Yeah, a lot of times they are hypocritical.
Yes, I have a problem with the hypocrisy. I don't have a problem. Yeah. I don't go sleep with whoever the fuck they want. I think we have a right to know. This is where it gets. This is where I really struggle with how to work it out. Because if they are standing on a platform that are saying that they are this morally upstanding person, that family values means a man and a woman, okay, then I have a right to know if that person is shagging a fucking boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Well, and the other thing we run into frequently in the U.S. are the ones that stand up and say that abortion is immoral and do everything to make sure nobody here can get it. And when their mistress gets pregnant, they fly her off to another country to get one.
Mm.
Yep. All the ones that stand on a platform against homophobia but are secretly gay.
Mm. Yes.
Bastards.
I saw an excellent tweet this morning by Jeff.
I tend to agree with the Ron Swanson approach to privacy, if anyone's seen Parks and Recreation.
Yes.
Just,
I would like to agree.
Ask a question and just, why do you want to know?
Yes, apart from the fact that you do not live in a society where that is acceptable to the majority. As in, no, and I don't mean acceptable in the way you're about to respond.
I'm not about to respond. I'm about to ask you to clarify.
Oh, fair enough. Right, because they won't do the same. Right, we have biases when someone says something odd. Right, for example, in this country, as much as an awful lot of people watch American TV, okay, we don't have the right to plead the fifth. Us not saying anything is allowed to be used as a tacit admission of guilt.
Is there a tacit admission of guilt, though? It can be.
It's not an admission of guilt. I was trying to keep it
used in court that you were unprepared to answer, but it's not an admission of guilt.
No, it's not an admission of guilt, but it is. You are allowed to use it as such. You are allowed
use it to infer that the person.
Yes.
I think you're overstepping that, Dave.
No. The big cases. Use is the wrong word there. But the point being that they are allowed. The judge is allowed to direct the jury that by not cooperating, this is highly suspicious and should be interpreted in this way.
It can be presented as evidence.
Yes.
However, it's not entirely. It doesn't stand as evidence on its own.
No, of course it doesn't. My point was not to.
My general approach to anyone asking me any kind of invasive question is to either refuse to answer or remain completely silent.
Yeah.
Because any question of that nature, my response is generally none of your fucking business. Fuck off.
Yes. I mean, this is my issue. The problem you have is we have a compliant population. Okay, it is perfectly reasonable when the police pull you over to ask you a question for you to not provide any information. You know, we have policing by consent.
Yeah, that would be my response.
Right, but the problem is because you are seen as being obstructive.
If I was asked something like, if I was pulled over by the police while driving, for example, and I was asked something like, "Do you know how fast you were going?" and I did know. Then I would say, yes, I do know. It was this fast. Or if I didn't know, I'd say, no, I don't. How fast was I going? And then if they were to say you were over the speed limit, I'd be like, okay. However, if they were to ask me, where are you going? I would say, none of your business.
They are trying to get you. The problem you've got is the questions they give you that they ask you will lead most people. And you not following the script is seen as an aberration.
One of the ones that I find with that is the recording thing.
Yes.
Like if you record them on your phone, the police will try and say, "Excuse me, you're not allowed to record me." Well, actually, I fucking am, because that's the reason that we're allowed to have CCTV on the streets.
Yes.
Anyone is allowed to record anyone else in public.
Yes.
It is my right to do so.
Yes.
That's the other thing. I would record any
CCTV, mate. On you go.
Yes, completely and utterly. Right, and this is the point. The problem we have got is not. It's the issue. Again, I'm going to massively jump the thing. It's my issue with. I've talked to some of you about it before. It's my issue with human rights. It's my issue with rights in general. Okay, because rights are meaningless unless they are enforced. Okay, so there cannot be inherent rights unless you have got someone willing to actually fight for them. Unless you have got a government that will mostly a government that will actually protect them, they can't stand. That they have no meaning. And you have this with these various different laws, and the problem you have got to deal with is the difference between how people will act and what the law says. Right? When the police tell people that you're not allowed to record them, the majority of the population will instantly stop recording them. Right? Because they don't want to come up against. They don't want to be seen as. I don't really know. They don't want to be seen as a troublemaker. They don't want to be seen. And they end up in shit with it. I mean, I learned when I was a kid that I shouldn't trust the police. you want to know how I learnt that I shouldn't trust the police?
Go on.
There was a stolen car that had been dumped in the car park opposite my house. I phoned the police. I was 11 or 12. I phoned the police. I told the police about the car. And the person on the other end of the phone said, "Go and wait by the car, we will send someone down to deal with it." So I went and sat on the ground and waited an hour next to the car. A random Bobby came up and bollocked me.
It's an interesting word, that bollocked you.
Yeah. My view on the police and anyone else is I innately distrust anyone who claims to have a position of authority, because I think it is essential to distrust anyone in a position of authority in order to keep that position of authority honest.
I think we could argue at length about that. But I do agree with the sentiment. Go on.
I've been pulled over a couple of times for speeding, and I always find that it's easier to just be cordial with them and, not be an asshole. And like, I was doing 110 and he put me through for 75 and we ended up laughing and joking about stuff. It's definitely beneficial for me.
Yeah,
I
found when I'm stopped by the police that, if you're polite to them, it really disarms them. They approach the car expecting a conflict.
The problem this is the problem I've got with that I really want to argue gun control with Badger, because it's my biggest issue. It's my biggest issue with gun control. And why you need gun control. Okay.
Whereas I'm very much on the other side.
I know you
of
are,
that.
but the point being that in the states, the police have to approach the car as though the person that is sat on the driving seat has a gun. Okay, and I do not begrudge any police officer in the states doing that, because people do get shot from the driver sat in the car they pulled over. Okay, police cannot approach a car here with a gun. There is not allowed to be an expectation of a gun until they see a gun. So they're not running around with guns out all the time, ready to shoot, nervous that the person that opens the car door is just going for his driving license, or anything like that. There's no expectation of a gun, and there not being that expectation means a lot less innocent people get shot.
Policing is done on a very, very differently here.
Yes,
it's a lot closer because of that fact. Because there are no weapons usually. Policing's a lot closer. The training is a lot different as well.
Yes, right. Now we've been all over the place. I need to catch up on the chat. Right, Donna's chewing me up about them being public servants. I need to think about nurses a bit more. I don't think so, because I don't class them as public servants, but I appreciate that they technically are within the NHS. I don't know, I need to think. I promise I would class them as not being there to provide a service to the public. That makes sense.
I'm throwing everything on the floor here.
You don't think nurses provide a service?
I don't think nurses provide a service to the public. I think they provide a service to the individual.
Okay.
They're not making decisions.
Who is the public?
Say again?
But who is the public if not a collection of individuals?
Well, no, my point is it's the point when you start having a collection of individuals with someone making policy decisions over them that you end up with politicians. And you can argue whether or not corporations and leaders within corporations come down to that again, but there tends to be... The problem we've got is the capitalist system we have in terms of companies is very broken. We should have companies competing with each other at the top level. The thing that keeps capitalism honest is there should be another company that's over there that can do it better, cheaper, that will highlight the horrific things this other company is doing. Because when you've got companies doing that, you can keep them honest. What we have is capitalism where all the companies are in bed with each other to make sure that no one exposes any of the horrific stuff that's going on. So anyone that's grassroots that tries to highlight it is just seen as a crazy person. But like I said, I think there's a differentiation between what is technically they are providing health services, not political leadership.
It's funny when the silly questions start a fucking full debate.
Yeah. The original question is not madness.
Right, let me go right for the Tom Leach. Does the money sway their beliefs, or do organisations keep money to politicians who share their beliefs? You don't need to give a pro-gun candidate money to keep them pro-gun, which I find odd. But I think it's just so they keep staunchly with it. They're not. They can't be pragmatic. I think a lot more. I think a lot of honest politicians. Honest is the wrong word there, but would be more pragmatic about certain issues. I don't think most of them give a shit about abortion. But because of how they are funded, they are staunchly against abortion. Tom Leach, there are homophobic politicians in 2020. Where? Everywhere.
America, all over the shop.
Yeah.
Tom, your courts can force you to incriminate yourself? Absolutely. Catching up with
also, certain politicians in the UK, but not so openly.
It beats the peace standard. I'll pull over the police while driving. It would be a fair cop. I can't drive. I don't own a car.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Bill's already answered these. Please. Please.
Sloth Girl doesn't own a car either. She just keeps taking mine.
What does that mean? He put his... Oh, I see. He wants to know what bollocking means.
Can she drive legally, though?
Well, she does have a valid license, so yes.
So it wouldn't be a fair cop, then.
The real reason... I'm way behind. Donna says, stumped you, critical cripple, which, yes.
Off on a full-blown rant, like...
Oh, I did see that notch come in.
Yes. Tom, if the government employs all nurses, then they are public sector workers, but I don't really understand the NHS so very well. The point is, I agree that they are public sector workers. I just don't consider them on the same point as politicians. You know, I'm not really arguing that civil servants should lose their privacy either, but I could see an argument for it.
Well, and
yeah, Donna, you think the NHS is honest? I'm not going to answer that.
Yeah, Tom Leach is saying about all the companies being in bed with each other. Do you mean health companies? Because most companies compete with each other. And no, there are a lot of industries, especially the energy industries and the oil companies, at least in the U.S., that basically they engage in price fixing. There's no competition between them.
The problem is that the healthcare companies do. The way that they bill between each layer of it relies on this level of agreement that they will not charge honest prices.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's the same through the automotive industry. It's horrific for it. At every level, there is not fair competition. And again, don't get me wrong. This is the problem where I don't know where I come politically. Because capitalism as a key idea is good. As an idealised thing. But an awful lot of things in society is better when you get together and do it. At the end of the day, you've only got... The healthcare system is the perfect example. Okay? Regardless of the fact that whether or not it is our government that pays for it, we pay less GDP for our health service than any country that has private health service, private health.
Massively.
Right. So
yes.
it don't forget anything as to whether or not choice and whether all the various different complications. At the end of the day, from a capitalist, the US should be defending socialized healthcare from a capitalist point of view. Not fucking needs one. Not a. It will help the poorest. It should be defended because it is cheaper. That's it.
Yeah. Well, having a healthier and more productive workforce.
The NHS is the most efficient healthcare system in the world. Bar none.
Don't know if I agree with that, but I do agree it's good.
I mean, I can produce evidence to prove it.
I don't doubt it, to be honest.
Can we have some more silly questions?
Yeah, well, the next question. Sorry. If you enjoyed that, please hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down. If you think you've got a better answer or just want to tell us how wrong we are, leave a comment down below. Subscribe down here for new questions every day and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on our live shows. If you click over here, you'll see our latest upload. Over here, for what YouTube thinks you'll love the most. And finally, for a complete playlist of all our currently released questions, click here.